This show in no way whatsoever condones or promotes any crime or behavior that harms children or anyone else. This program is educational and preventative. It is not a substitute for professional therapy. Unless otherwise stated, neither the host nor any guest is a credentialed professional of any kind. If you feel you need mental health treatment, please seek a professional. Welcome to Authenticity Redefined, Round Zero.
Police are accusing a former public defender of sexually assaulting a child.
Las Vegas math middle school teacher accused of having an inappropriate relationship with a 13-year-old girl.
County Fire Lieutenant and his wife are accused of sexual activity with a teenage girl.
Pastor charged with raping a young girl. They're worried he may have molested even more children.
Get on the ground! Get on the ground now! Get on the ground!
They say the former cop not only used his badge to gain the trust of children and parents, but used it to hide his alleged crimes. And despite red flags,
we do not tolerate this crime.
These are among the sickest tops of criminals.
Stop it! Stop it! You're hurting me! Stop it! You're hurting me!
Stop the madness.
When Drs. Yochelson and Samenow began working with criminals at St. Elizabeth Hospital, they brought with them decades of traditional psychological education, theory, and experience. Many psychologists had studied criminality before them, but as their work progressed, Dr. Yochelson and Samenow found themselves trekking uncharted territory, making discoveries none others had ever found. The work of their predecessors was necessary, however, in the evolution of knowledge. On page 105 of the Criminal Personality Volume 1, authored by Drs. Yochelson and Samenow, there is a quote by Healey from 1915. It says, "The makeup of the personality is the largest part of the story. Poverty and crowded houses and so on by themselves alone are not productive of criminalism. A public playground is not incentive toward good conduct unless better mental activities and better mental content are fostered there. All problems connected with bad environmental conditions should be carefully viewed in the light of mental life. In order to consider a person's mental life, they must willingly express what's happening in their mind. The fostering of good conduct is only possible when erroneous thinking is met with outrage from the community. Why is it that some people can express themselves so easily and others cannot? Well, when it comes to criminality, in short, it becomes a question of emotional and psychological maturity. From a very early age, criminals choose the easy way out of conflicts. It can be said that conflicts, when met head-on, are the building blocks of maturity. The opposite is also true. A person's unwillingness to deal with life's conflicts, consistently skirting away from them, will cause an underdevelopment in emotional and psychological maturity. The fear of rejection, discomfort, or disappointment consistently takes a person down a path without challenges and a sort of emotional and psychological atrophy. Dr. Yochelson and Dr. Samenow discovered that labels do more to conceal than to reveal. For example, much of criminal symptomology can fall under psychosis, but the term falls short when it comes to treating criminality. Where psychopaths are driven by urges and impulses, a criminal is driven by choice, fully aware of wrongdoing and the consequences their actions will have on themselves and others. Nonetheless, a label is necessary so treatment can be applied and repeated. Psychotic leans too much on defect, and criminal is too broad and uncharted to be effective. Yet we mustn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. The following are traits commonly attributed to psychotics that can also be seen in criminals. Number 1, they do not profit from experience. Number 2, they lack a sense of responsibility. Number 3, they are unable to form meaningful relationships. Number 4, they lack control over impulses. Number 5, they lack moral sense. Number 6, they are chronically or recurrently antisocial. Number 7, they fail to have punishment alter behaviors. Number 8, they are emotionally immature. Number 9, they are unable to experience guilt. And number 10, they are self-centered. The 10 traits attributed to psychopaths are listed in the comment section below. The most common observation is that psychopaths are unreliable and generally irresponsible. Another very common characteristic of psychopaths is insincerity and untruthfulness. It has been said that psychopaths represent a failure and maturity of their personality. And yet many psychopaths are very intelligent, creative, and skilled in academics, art, and trades. Despite the similarities between criminals and psychopaths, many believe them to be different and thus do not think the terms should be used interchangeably because the issue of awareness or intent is critical. Due to these similarities, it is unknown whether a person classified as a criminal should be handled by the legal system or treated by mental health. In the case of sex offenders, both paths are taken, which may be why the emphasis is on punishment and not prevention. Sex offenders who are arrested, charged, and imprisoned benefit from the punishment as seen statistically in their behavior in prison and their low recidivism rate. This only addresses one aspect of this problem, however. It's reactive. Only after a child has been hurt is anything done. A switch to a proactive stance, one that prevents child sex abuse before it happens, requires we change our perspective. A more accurate label is necessary. Why? Because calling someone a psychopath suggests they have some kind of permanent mental defect. It makes it sound like they can't help it, like their brain is wired wrong and they're untreatable. Yochelson and Samenow rejected that. They saw criminality as intentional thinking errors, not an incurable disease. This inaccurate view is what's driving the fervor and the madness. In order to prevent child sexual abuse, in order to solve any complicated problem, it must be looked at correctly and dealt with precisely. We're baking cookies in an oven preheated for whole chicken. The smoke from the burnt cookies are ruining the air quality of the house. We're running a commercial oven at maximum heat for prolonged periods, wasting massive amounts of electricity and degrading the appliance. We're ruining the cookware and making it harder to bake anything else successfully in the future. When you crank the heat to 400 degrees Fahrenheit for a cookie, you do not just ruin the cookie. You fill the whole house with toxic smoke. It triggers alarms and risks burning down the structure. In a justice system, applying extreme blanket punitive measures to low-level or rehabilitatable offenders ruins the individual. But it also damages society. Mass incarceration and excessive sentences strip communities of working-age adults. This destroys family structures, leaves children in poverty, and creates a generational cycle of trauma that society must financially and socially support. Funneling billions of taxpayer dollars into maximum security housing for treatable offenders starves the rest of society of resources. Those funds are diverted away from infrastructure, education, and healthcare, the very things that prevent crime in the first place. So here's where we need to take Dr. Yochelson Samenow's work further. The best label for what we're dealing with in the 93%, the fathers, uncles, coaches, and regular people who fall into this, is institutionalization. What is institutionalization? It's an emotional stagnation, a kind of psychological retardation of their maturational development. It happens when a person spends years, sometimes decades, skirting responsibilities, avoiding hard emotions, and refusing to grow up. Over time, this creates a kind of emotional atrophy. The person never learns how to properly process conflict, disappointment, rejection, or stress like a mature adult. So when life hits them, and it always does, they don't have the emotional tools to handle it. Instead of feeling the discomfort and working through it, they chase quick relief through power, control, or excitement. That's how they try to achieve an emotional homeostasis. This is why a grown man can look completely normal on the outside, but still think and react like a child when things don't go his way. He never finished growing up emotionally. He's institutionalized. not by prison walls, but by his own lifelong pattern of avoidance. And here's the hopeful part. Unlike the old idea of the psychopath, who can't be fixed, institutionalization can be reversed. It takes hard work. It takes opening the channel. It takes learning to feel discomfort instead of running from it. But it is possible. Let's break this down some more. Traditionally, institutionalization is like when a person spends decades inside a highly structured institution, like prison, a military facility, or long-term hospital. They internalize the rules, routines, and way of thinking so deeply that they continue operating that way even after they leave. The institution's framework becomes their default operating system. They stop thinking independently. Their behavior, decisions, and emotional responses remain shaped by the institution long after the external walls are gone. It's like the soldier who scarfs down his meal in 3 minutes before his wife seasoned her food. He let the institution do his thinking for so long that he forgot how to do it himself. In criminality, something similar happens, except the institution is self-created. It's a lifelong habit of avoiding responsibility, running from discomfort, and refusing to grow up emotionally. The emotional stagnation shows up in all 3 areas of crime: property, assault, and sex. Let me give you a clear example in the sexual area because this is what we're focused on. Imagine a man who's been rejected by women most of his life. Maybe he's overweight, awkward, or has poor hygiene. Instead of doing the hard work, losing weight, learning how to communicate better, cleaning up his appearance, developing discipline and delayed gratification, he avoids all of that discomfort. An adult woman would hold him accountable. She would make him face his issues. But because he spent his whole life skirting responsibility, he doesn't want that. So what does he do? He goes for what's fast and easy. Someone younger, more vulnerable, less likely to scrutinize him, someone he can manipulate. His problem isn't really about attraction. His problem is laziness and discomfort avoidance. He never learned how to handle rejection and grow from it like a mature adult. This is institutionalization in action. He's emotionally and psychologically stuck at a much younger age. And the only real way out is to open the channel, to disclose those thoughts, be receptive to real feedback from the community, and start doing the hard work he's been avoiding his whole life. In episode 1 of Stop the Madness, we talked about the Australian study that found 1 in 7 men admit to having sexual feelings or intrusive thoughts toward children or teens. So how does that fit with the idea of institutionalization? Here's the truth. Many men in the 93% group have both. They have some level of attraction or intrusive thoughts toward minors, and they are emotionally and psychologically stagnated. Because they never learned how to handle adult relationships, rejection, or the hard work of self-improvement, they take the easy manipulative route. Institutionalization doesn't create the attraction, but it determines how they respond to it. A mature, emotionally developed man who experiences an intrusive thought has the tools to feel the discomfort, disclose it if needed, and choose not to act on it. He can seek help, build relationships, and grow. The institutionalized man does not. When the thought comes, he doesn't have the emotional maturity to sit with it. So he avoids the hard path, growing up, facing rejection, developing himself, and goes for what feels like power, control, or excitement, the easier target. That's why the treatability message applies to both. Whether the root issue starts with intrusive thoughts, attraction, or deep emotional stagnation, the mechanism that turns those thoughts into action is almost always closed channel thinking, failure to disclose, lack of receptivity, and lack of self-criticism. And that is exactly what we can work on. Institutionalization is not an excuse, it's an explanation. And once we understand it, we can start reversing it. We've covered a lot today. The old labels like psychopath don't serve us. They make us sound hopeless. What we're really looking at in most cases is institutionalization, that deep emotional stagnation that keeps people stuck, acting like children in adult bodies. This is why the current system keeps failing. They keep using the same blunt, shame-heavy, one-size-fits-all hammer on everyone, and it only drives the problem deeper into secrecy. It doesn't fix the root. It protects no one. But here's the hopeful truth. This can change. Institutionalization can be reversed. People can grow up emotionally. They can learn to handle discomfort without reaching for power, control, or excitement. They can open the channel. That future is possible, but only if we get serious about doing the work differently. In the next episode, we're going to take the first real practical step, phenomenological reporting, a structured way to map out our own thinking patterns on paper before you ever have to say them out loud. That's where the real opening of the channel begins. Thank you for staying with me through this one. If it hit you, share it. We need more people thinking clearly about this. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, take care.